Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about astrology. I'm here to defend astrology from some common criticisms. Alright. One might say that astrology abstracts you away from reality because you spend too much time in your head thinking about what's going on in the stars, and you're not actually engaging with the world. However, one might say to this that astrology is not in your head. It's actually going outside and looking at creation. It's being in touch with creation. And it's not just in your head, it's literally a reflection of your head. Just as everything is a reflection of our psyche, we see the unconscious, but in the stars, this is a really clear or condensed expression of it, I would argue, insofar as things like zodiacal ages and...
You could develop some insight into the structure of the mind.
Oh no, maybe you can't hear me. Let's see if this works. Hopefully you can hear me better now. It kind of depends on how you think the universe / God is in terms of, why the astrological transits seem to reflect things here on Earth. But as far as I see it, at least, it's like a very compressed reflection of the fundamental patterns of that govern the human psyche and the human being in collective situations. Alright, another thing that someone might say is, why should I organize my life around these patterns? Not necessarily to say that they're arbitrary, although some people do say that, but I'm talking about people might say, I'm the one who decides, the patterns by which God, and God is not connected to, we don't see God through the stars. Who could ever think such a thing? God doesn't communicate to us through, that's not in the Bible or anything. That's not a basic human understanding through most of the time. And anyway, why organize? But I would say that you already do. Whoever you might be, everyone already does organize their life around the celestial motions, such that the seasons and the day and night cycle are fundamental to the human experience. The seasons less so, because of course people live in different places on the earth. And there's a weird thing with astrology when it comes to the southern hemisphere, but it kind of most astrology throughout history has just kind of ignored that part of the world exists. But that's a conversation for a different day, in my opinion. I'm saying, like the basic pattern of waking up and going to bed at 24-hour increment, the increments that we do and stuff, and traditionally before all this bullshit and light, that swept the stars from the sky, we would be much more in harmony with the rising of the sun and such. And I say, why not dance with the music more deeply? Why not reconnect with this genetically familiar, let's say, or mimetically familiar pattern of being, which is to, why not reconnect to, why not try and wake up in harmony with, when the sun rises or something of the sort. Hopefully that kind of gets through what I mean. Why not dance more intentionally with the rhythms of reality and that already govern our life. Alright, hopefully I'm not too heated about this. I mean no ill will towards these people who make these sorts of claims, but it does kind of hurt me a bit, to be frank, I suppose. But let's stay focused here. Alright, now we start to get into more nuanced points. Like, one might say that I'm sure it has an effect on me, but I'm not really interested in it. And I say that it's not about relating to whatever effect it might have on you. It's about, as I was kind of just saying, it's about getting in touch with the present moment and reality. And it's about seeing your reflection in the world. It's about, because that's really the thing we gotta do. We have to recognize this interesting dichotomy that is human perception, insofar as we both perceive something real, like that is beyond just the subjective. However, we also are always perceiving our own unconscious, and it's about doing that at every level. The firmaments of heaven. Alright, moving on. I kind of touched on this briefly, but some people would say it brings you out of the present moment. You're always thinking about the future, thinking about what might happen and all this stuff. And I think this brings up an interesting thing, which is all the shitty astrologers, in my opinion. There are many, and I might be one of them, but regardless, I say shitty astrologers abound, and if I do say. And I think it's very easy to go wrong with astrology, such that one might become obsessed with the future or the past, and then when I might die or who I might fall in love with. Oh my god, the rabbit holes are laughable, honestly. And one of the things that can go wrong is that we are taken away from the present moment. However, I think when engaged with appropriately, it's about connecting more deeply with the present moment. It's about, when I encounter the world in this moment, how deeply do I know this moment? And this is not this experience I'm having is not just where I am, how I feel, what I'm thinking, it's a temporal. There's a certain thing about this moment which is very unique. Like we just had Mercury turn retrograde, we got the Mars, Jupiter, Saturn situation, Pluto abiding ominously, and that's, speaking in astrological jargon, but the point being that there's a character to every day of your life. And as I was saying earlier, to engage deeply with reality is kind of what I'm talking about. It's all, life is about how we engage with patterns and such. And yeah, I gotta stay focused. Alright. I think there's good reason, and it's very understandable, to be off-put by astrology based on most people talking about it, in my opinion. They might appear a little crazy like me, or they might appear completely incoherent whatsoever. Hopefully I'm not that far gone. I think it's very understandable to be off-put by, when you search astrology on YouTube or whatever, you'll run into some crazy stuff. So that's kind of an important thing to remember, in my opinion. That astrologers are perhaps not, modern astrologers in 2024 are perhaps not who we should be thinking of when we imagine what the astrologer the import of the astrologer, let's say, or the capabilities or anything. Although I think maybe it would be helpful to look at some of these common sins, let's say, sins of astrology, where it might illuminate some of the ways to avoid. Yeah, you get the idea. So one of the things that can go wrong is that people just get extremely into it. And I'm not talking like the crazy into it. I'm not a big fan of the word crazy. Somebody who was called crazy in my day a number of times. I know how hurtful it can be, but a different kind of into it, where they get into it and they're like, it can be very addictive. And I would say that there's lots of good things that can be addictive. Good habits, let's say. Astrology is addictive, but so is God. And, just because alcohol is addictive doesn't mean we should ban wine from the church service. Alright, another thing that people, the shitty astrologers to which I refer, one other failing of these people is that they will often be able to produce nothing of import or consequence, such that their predictions are loosely correlated or unsurprising. And I think that this is simply an attestation to the fact that we have lost this, or maybe even yet to fully tap what is there to be gleaned. And of course there are many biblical situations that maybe I should pay some attention to the biblically minded, the folks who never hesitate to quote the Bible as justification for whatever. One of these, of course, is the Magi. The Magi. I'm not really prepared to talk about this in depth, but of course this is an obvious instance of the stars leading somebody to find the true meaning, such that by attending to the stars, we come to know that to which they point, which is the logos, pattern of patterns. And that's the thing, is that people should be able to, things like that are possible. Perhaps somebody could prophesy an important date in our modern time.
The angel said the end of a cycle was coming, said it would end in December, and gave instructions about how to proceed.
And then something would happen on that date. I think things like this are very possible. And I am saddened to see that people are not doing things like this, because I trust, and even one might say I biblically trust, that the stars reveal something very important, that being the will of God or something of the sort. Alright. And that we might want to hear what God is saying. We might want to, the stars are speaking to us in a way about what's up, and we should maybe be like, oh, that's what's up. Okay. Alright. Yeah. Another thing is that people will just kind of dismiss astrology. They'll be like, yeah, I'm sure it means something, but it's not, worth my attention. Like they'll be affirming and be like, yeah, it's good. It's like when people are like dieting. They're like, oh yeah, dieting, I'm sure that's really good for you, but I just can't bring myself to diet or something of the sort, or I'm not really interested in diet. I have more important things to attend to. And they might not, they might be doing fine. I'm not saying that everybody should go on a diet, but everybody should perhaps be attending to what they eat, perhaps. We should not just be stuffing our face with McDonald's. McDonald's unconsciously tastes so good. Alright, that's basically what I have to say today. Let's see if I can think of any others. People will say that it is idolatrous, that you are worshipping lower patterns or something, and this is very important in my opinion. This is what happens when you do not have God Christ. Astrology is idolatrous, they'll say. But that is what happens when we stop at the stars. When we forget that they're revealing the will of God. Anything less than that, is idolatrous. This is true for everything, in a sense. This is the idea of natural divination. That in all things are revealed the glory of God's music. His patterned being. And when we think about that everything is like this through our appropriate relating with it. Through our ability to read the signs and the symbols that God has prepared for us. This is how we come to know reality. But idolatry is forgetting about God behind all things or something. I think that's probably sufficient for the day. Again, much love towards the people who throw these sorts of trivializations at astrology. And I'm nothing of a professional astrologer myself, however, it's very surprising to me, that all these people have their strong views, and even people who support astrology, like let's say in a Christian context, they'll be like, yeah, astrology's good, yeah, but then like they're not doing it or like talking about it. Or like they're not actually relating to it, they're just like jargonizing it, Now, what did Christ say about astrology, right? One might think this. Who knows? Maybe we could ask him. Wild idea. And maybe the only reason we don't see Christ talking too explicitly about astrology in the Gospels is either because we have blinded ourselves to a symbolic reading of them, or because the Gospels in which he was talking about it were all burned. It's so I don't mean to imply that we can just be, that there's nothing important about the traditional stance in terms of astrology and such. However, we must not be willfully blind about the sorts of things that were obviously in the cultural zeitgeist, of the time period, such that an example is that Easter often falls, it's like, at least for some traditions, is based around the lunar cycle, so anyway, hopefully my condescending tone was not too off-putting in this one. Hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully, if you considered yourself, I'm gonna watch this video and I'm gonna come away with, I'm just gonna get my jouissance. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, astrology sucks. Hopefully you found this interesting and that you might think about it more. I'm not trying to shill. I'm not trying to, infect you with the astrology mind virus. I'm rather speaking my truth, which is that this stuff seems very, why are we not? I don't understand why people are so opinionated and negative. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think it's pretty obvious, straightforward. So thanks for watching. Again, much love towards these people. You can't blame them, but we can't just be like relativistic about this and just let people say whatever. So free speech is good, but we have to also counter when we have to talk ideas. This is what we do. Dialogue is very productive, in my opinion. So that is all. I wish you a good day.